Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. The January 6th Select Committee has announced a surprise hearing to present new evidence. And I don't care. Not at all. I'm not going to watch it. It's a waste of time. And it's non-adversarial. You've got people going up, just giving their opinions, and there's no cross-examination. There's no real attempt at understanding what happened. But there is, my friends, a conspiracy afoot. So here's the story that's going viral. Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger, who was in charge of securing the Capitol on January 6th, dies suddenly just one day before the Capitol Riot Committee is set to call a surprise hearing to present newly uncovered evidence. Well, Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger had stated something about paid provocateurs or agitators being there on January 6th. The Daily Mail has gone and done something humorous, in my opinion. Or how about we just say irresponsible, and linked that to the surprise hearing, making it seem like he was supposed to testify and be like, there were paid agitators and, oh no, I'm dead. In reality, Cassidy Hutchinson is going to be testifying. That's the surprise. The first White House staff to testify publicly at the committee. But there is something that we really should talk about that's quite annoying and is a bit more conspiratorial. While I do think we can read this story and address what it really means that this guy died, we also have another individual being raided by the feds, this time pro-Trump attorney John Eastman, saying federal agents seized his phone and forced him to unlock it as Justice Department cracks down on ex-president and his allies' 2020 election fraud claims. But here's the big story. It's actually a couple days old, but I think, considering we have this news this morning, new evidence undercuts January 6 instigator conspiracy theory. The anatomy of false framing, manipulation, and lies from the New York Times. Ray Epps. You've heard the name? There's a video of him inciting people to go into the Capitol. There's a video of him whispering into a man's ear who then breaks down a barrier and storms into the Capitol grounds. The New York Times is engaged in quite a bit of media manipulation to undercut the claim to protect this guy, which in fact only makes the conspiracy theories worse. Look, maybe Ray Epps is just some random guy. He started cooperating with the feds, so they cut him slack. He sold out people at the event. He gave them evidence, so they said, okay, you're free to go. It's simple. I'm not saying that Ray Epps is a federal informant or anything like that. I have no evidence to suggest that. I'm saying that may be the case. But the New York Times is omitting information and falsely framing the claims made against him, which just makes the conspiracy even weirder. They omit evidence. They then, I got to show you this article because it is like, I'm sorry. It really does feel like the New York Times went out of their way to make sure they manipulated information on this story to confuse you. Yeah. So we'll read that, but let's get started with why this guy died and break down the conspiracy of the insurrection. Daily Mail reports. The man in charge of protecting the Senate during the Capitol riot has died just a day before the committee investigating the attack was set to reveal new evidence in a surprise session. Michael Stenger, 71, was the sergeant at arms of the Senate on the day of the attempted insurrection. I have to say it like that because it's just so silly that they would say that word. He resigned amid criticism he had failed to react effectively to the building being overrun. I mean, that's true, and he should resign. His sudden death on Monday came the same day an unexpected additional hearing of the committee investigating the riot was announced. The surprise meeting will present recently obtained evidence and receive witness testimony. Okay. The Senate Sergeant at Arms said there were paid agitators or something to that effect. He died suddenly, but he was 71 years old. Come on. Dying suddenly at 71 is not so much a conspiracy other than he made it to 71. All right, well, the average life expectancy, I think, what is it, like 76 or something like that? But he's 71 years old, man. I mean, these things happen. And I don't think that a non-adversarial committee hearing is going to present any evidence that actually makes Trump look good or exposes what this man was actually saying. So it's just unrelated. I know everybody wanted to believe that this guy was going to come out and be like, I've got the documents, and slams them on the table. No, it's a non-adversarial hearing. The committee would never bring this guy on to actually testify and make Trump look good. Sorry, it's not going to happen. He's a 71-year-old man. He just died, and I don't know, people want to believe in the conspiracies. I tweeted out the image with LOL whatever, And of course, people are retweeting it. And of course, I'm sure the left will get mad at me or whatever because they're like, why don't you break down the context? Shut up. It's Twitter. In a private meeting, Hutchinson previously said Meadows was warned in advance that there could be trouble on January 6th. Her video deposition was used to support, so this is Hutchinson. Her video deposition was used to support the committee's argument that several of the Republicans later sought presidential pardons. Quote, we had intel reports saying that there could potentially be violence on the 6th, Hutchinson told the panel in a portion of a transcript shared in court documents in April. And Mr. Meadows said, all right, let's talk about it. Hutchinson was present during meetings between Meadows and multiple House Republicans who backed Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election. She also said that she saw Meadows burn documents. I mean, interesting stuff, but not under oath and no cross-examination, so she may as well be farting into the microphone as far as I'm concerned. Meadows had been subpoenaed by the committee but refused to cooperate. I know that he was on several calls during the rally, Hutchinson testified. And I went over to meet with him at one point, and he had just waved me away, which is out of the ordinary. The shock additional hearing was reportedly kept a secret in part owing to security threats to a witness, the Washington Post reported. Hey, look, man, if they're burning documents, lock them up, investigate. But we need a cross-examination. We need an investigation. We need under oath statements. You can't just be like, we're going to bring in the people we want. They can say whatever they want. It's not under oath. Come on. Stanger previously served in the United States Marine Corps and spent 35 years in the Secret Service. He was the chief law enforcement officer and head of protocol for the chamber since 2008. Okay, so we get it. He said there is an opportunity to learn lessons from the events of January 6th. Investigation should be considered as to funding and travel of what appears to be professional agitators. Well. And what does that really mean? Funding and travel? It doesn't mean feds. Whatever he was saying, I think it's worth investigating. You've got people who somehow make it to these events and instigate, and these are the questions that lead us to Ray Epps. Was he a federal informant? No idea. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe he was. Whatever. Could he have been one of these professional agitators? Yes. Will there be an investigation? Not from these people. And these are the things that we want answered. And that's the strangest thing. If they just came out and said, look, we've done a background into this guy and honestly assessed the claims made against him, I'd accept it. But they're not. The New York Times is just obfuscating reality. It's very strange. Now, I want to make sure I mention this before we get into the other story. A pro-Trump attorney being raided by the feds. Sorry, dudes. The government is in disarray and it's collapsing. That's just it. If, you know what? Look, I get it. People in power want to try and struggle to maintain the system. Civil war and strife, not a good thing. But this, you're not helping. Sorry. The feds raiding Trump supporters, senior DOJ officials, it only serves to shatter confidence in the system. It's only making it worse. So when I look at this stuff, I'm just like, seems like the feds are trying to destroy the United States. And I mean that literally. Like, this makes it seem like federal agents sat there and said, asked themselves what they could do to destroy confidence in the federal government and then went out and did it. I can't imagine they don't understand the ramifications of their actions. Because we've heard it publicly, like it's dangerous to go after Hillary. We can't do it because it would cause disarray and all that stuff. And we're mad about it because if you break the law, you break the law. But this, going after a DOJ official's phone, raiding his house, that's Jeffrey Clark. The guy's not accused of any crime. That's where things start getting crazy. Because he wanted to investigate fraud? I don't care. The system is breaking down. I bring you now to this story from the New York Times. Ray Epps. Who was he? For those that aren't familiar and probably don't care, because I got to be honest, most people don't care about January 6th. This is the reality. Poll after poll shows people are just like, I don't care. Gas is $5 a gallon. Get out of my face. But I can't help it. I saw a story and it was fake news, and I said, I have to address it. Let's break it down. New evidence undercuts January 6th instigator conspiracy theory. So say it the New York Times. Recordings released to defense lawyers directly challenge assertions by prominent Republicans that an Arizona man named Ray Epps was a federal informant and helped start the Capitol riot. Okay, slow down there a minute, Haas. Ray Epps was a federal informant and helped start. You see how they play that game. There's a lot of questions surrounding Ray Epps. One, Was he a federal informant? 2, why has he not been held to account either way? The reason the first question is being asked is because this man is seen on camera inciting people to storm the Capitol building. And then he's not being arrested or charged, so people want to know. Now, was he a federal informant prior to the events of January 6th? No idea. There's no evidence to suggest that. That's why people are asking the question. They've denied it. Many people have denied it. Is he a federal informant now? Perhaps. But let me show you how the New York Times frames this to manipulate the story. You notice they say, was he a federal informant and helped to start the riot, as if it's one fact check, one thing. And they use the one thing to discredit the whole thing. I'll give you the example I often give on how the media manipulates you. Donald Trump will do a backflip, off the balcony into the Rose Garden and land perfectly in a superhero pose, and the ground shakes and whoa. And then everyone will watch the video and they'll start talking about this amazing backflip that Donald Trump did. And they say, wow, this is why I voted for him. Snopes will then say, did Donald Trump really do a backflip off of the balcony into the Rose Garden on Saturday? False. Big, bold false. Say never happened. It's fake news. And then all the way at the bottom of the article, for those who actually make it there, it'll say, well, Donald Trump did do an amazing backflip landing in a superhero pose. It was on Sunday, not Saturday. Fake. So then people will take the headline, did Donald Trump do a backflip into the Rose Garden on Saturday? False. Not true. Share it all around. But if you removed the on Saturday, it would have been true, huh? I mean, I'm joking. Donald Trump obviously didn't do a backflip, but this is what they're doing here. Here's what they write. Prominent Republicans, including, so this is a story from May, but it was updated June 23rd. Prominent Republicans, including former President Donald J. Trump, have for months promoted a conspiracy theory that an Arizona man named Ray Epps was a federal informant who helped to instigate the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Now, that is technically correct, the best kind of correct, but the issue is many people have promoted the theory that he was a federal informant because he's not been held accountable for inciting a riot. That doesn't mean to say that people believe it's a guarantee he was. The idea is, how is it this guy did a thing we all saw on camera and was not held accountable? Why isn't he being investigated? Maybe it's because he's cooperating. Simple answer, right? The claims made in congressional hearing rooms on Fox News and Mr. Trump's political rallies have largely been based on a video taken just before violence erupted at the Capitol, showing Mr. Epps at the barricades outside the building whispering into the ear of a man named Ryan Samsel. Within moments of the brief exchange, Mr. Samsel, a Pennsylvania barber, can be seen moving forward and confronting the police in what amounted to the tipping point of the riot. Despite lacking proof of their claims, many Republicans have surmised that Mr. Epps instructed Mr. Samsel to antagonize the officers. They have also pushed the notion that because Epps has not been arrested, he must have been working for the government. Now, that last sentence is technically fair, but what they didn't include is that the night before, Ray Epps tells people to breach the Capitol, and everyone starts chanting Fed, 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 because it's an insane thing to ask people to do. So when you have a video of him saying that, then you have a video of him whispering in a guy's ear, and then immediately he goes and tries ripping the barricade down and escalating the riot. This guy had told people to breach. That's why people are assuming he told this other guy. I don't know what he said, but the New York Times is engaged in media manipulation. They say for more than a year, well before the name Ray Epps was widely known in the circles, federal authorities have had information from both him and Samsel suggesting he was not a government agent and did not encourage the younger man to engage with the police. The claim from both was that he went up to the guy and said, dude, relax. The cops are doing their job. That's what Mr. Samsel claims was whispered into his ear. Perhaps. And then right after Ray Epps said, relax, they're doing their job, Samsel stormed the barricade. Okay, I guess. I mean, sure. But the New York Times is ignoring the video from the night before where people were screaming Fed at this guy, Ray Epps, for suggesting people breach the Capitol. Why is this not here included in this? They say they've been debunked before, most notably after he spoke last year to investigators working with the House Select Committee, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I love. They say, just 2 days after the attack, Mr. Epps saw himself on a list of suspects. He called an FBI tip line and told investigators he had tried to call Mr. Samsel down when they spoke, according to 3 people who have heard a recording of the call. Yeah? Well, I haven't. And I don't accept your reporting, New York Times, because you've omitted information already. This is the kind of thing you get from the media, the way the media manipulates. This is why you end up with conspiracy theories, because the New York Times is either so completely inept that they did not actually know what people are arguing about this, or they're willfully trying to manipulate. And then you see this. Pro-Trump attorney John Eastman, the lawyer, says he was leaving a restaurant in New Mexico when he was served with a warrant by federal authorities. Eastman said agents gained access to his email accounts, a court filing says. It reportedly happened the same day feds raided the home of Jeffrey Clark. Clark is a Trump loyalist who the ex-president tried to install as head of the DOJ. The Justice Department is intensifying its crackdown on members of Trump's orbit who are accused of aiding his attempts to stay in power. So the president comes out and says, I believe a crime was committed. And if you worked with him and said, OK, we'll take a look into it, the feds will come and crush you. This is why there are conspiracy theories, because the federal government is going after Trump and people want things answered. And the New York Times is manipulating the narrative, and people feel like they're being underserved or they're being attacked by the establishment, by the media, by the Democrats, and by law enforcement. Maybe the reality is these law enforcement individuals are just not smart enough to understand what they're doing and how it's going to destroy everything. But this is what you get. A non-adversarial January 6th committee that matters not to most people, that is targeting the political rivals of the Democrats, which continues on a track that we have seen throughout the Trump presidency. That is Hillary Clinton signing off of the Steele dossier, the lies levied against Donald Trump, which ultimately lead to the Russiagate investigation. Hillary Clinton herself pushed these lies about Alpha Bank, that Donald Trump was involved with some Russian bank, just complete fabrications. Democrat lawyers posting that they were going to impeach Donald Trump the day he gets inaugurated. And then Trump gets jammed up with his investigation. It carries on. For the past 5 years, many people in this country have felt like the country was ripped apart. And I don't blame them. The collapse that we are seeing probably happened in 2016. And now it's just a slow motion fall. Donald Trump was the Pied Piper candidate, the Democrats said. He wasn't supposed to win. And then he did. And that's fascinating. There's another story that I'll probably get into a greater detail later. I've talked about it before. Democrats are funding Republicans. That's right. Andrew Yang went off on Twitter complaining about this, saying it's insane. Democrats are pouring money into the candidacy of more extreme far-right candidates or MAGA candidates, whatever, thinking they will be unpopular and that will help them win. It is one of the most insane strategies I've ever heard. With Donald Trump, there was a leaked email where they said they should promote him because he was a Pied Piper candidate. The idea was that many people would support Trump, but there was no way he could win an election. And then he did. And then in 2020, he got 12 million more votes than he got in the previous election. He still lost. But Donald Trump will beat Joe Biden in 2024 if there's a rematch. The economy is just in the gutter. So the Democrats are doubling down on this strategy. It's absolutely amazing. It didn't work the first time. It won't work the second time, but that's what they're doing. So in the end, it's almost like everything they are doing is on purpose and will result in the end of the United States. But this is what I've said before. You want to overthrow the U.S. How do you do it? You want to take away guns? It's tough. That Constitution's right there in the way. Nancy Pelosi came out and called the Supreme Court extremist. Well, how do you get rid of the Constitution? You need a civil war. You need to rip this country apart. I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of ideas, a lot of theories that I don't think have too much evidence, but it's just fun to speculate. Thucydides' trap, the idea that the United States will be entering a war with China, it's inevitable. Because China is a rising economic power, and as soon as it supplants the U.S., war will break out. Thucydides' trap says that whenever a rising economic power displaces the dominant power, there's a war. In 12 of 16 historical moments, it's happened. How do you avert that? Destroy the United States. Prevent it from happening and, prevent the United States from maintaining itself as an economic power, destroy its military capabilities and its culture, and then there won't be war. Yeah, maybe. A third world war with China and nuclear weapons would probably wipe out humanity. And maybe that's what they're thinking. Or maybe that's just not really happening and humans are just dominoes falling over, carrying along, and it's all entirely predictable. I can't tell you because I don't know. I can't see the future, as I often say. I can only present to you these stories and say, a shock January 6th hearing, and the sergeant at arms mysteriously dies. Yeah, okay, guys, come on. The dude was 71 years old. There's nothing that's going to come out in the January 6th hearing or anything. I don't know. Maybe, sure, this guy was going to come out and say, I can hold back no longer. I have evidence on the individuals who instigated. I think the interesting thing is, when he's mentioning professional agitators, he may be referring to Ray Epps. And that's why the New York Times has an update on their article trying to discredit this idea that Ray Epps was somehow involved. Maybe Ray Epps wasn't an informant. Maybe he's just a Democrat. Could it be? If the Democrats are funding Republicans and Pied Piper candidates, as they claim, maybe Ray Epps is just a Democrat who is trying to instigate to make Republicans look bad. That's simple, right? Maybe if that information got out, it'd be really, really devastating for Democrats. So they keep falling back on he was a federal informant. No, maybe he was just some dotard, and he wanted to hurt Republicans by making them look stupid. And it worked. Maybe he was genuinely a Trump supporter who instigated and then went, uh-oh. And he's cooperated with the Fed, so they've let him off the hook. No idea. I don't know, man. I think the January 6th is a big waste of time. Let's talk about gas prices. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.